Debar di hati saat pertama kali berada di sini, ternyata adakah engkau sudi terima? Ternyata kini kita masih bersama.
Tiap melodi yang beralun dan setiap bait kata-kata berlagu, semoga akan dapat menyentuh hatimu dan takkan kau lupa kita pernah bertemu.
Kau takkan pernah tahu senyumanmu itu penenang hatiku. Hapus semua lelahku, kau buatku lupa ujian berlalu.
Tulus jiwa ku katakan padamu, betapa ku sayangkan dirimu. Terima kasihku atas kesetiaan, terima kasihku atas kebahagiaan, terima kasihku atas penghargaan. Janjiku padamu akan ku usahakan, kan terus bertahan dengan izin Tuhan hingga ujung nyawa. Ku berterima kasih kepadamu.
Engkau takkan pernah tahu senyumanmu itu penenang hatiku. Hapus semua lelahku, kau buatku lupa ujian berlalu.
Tulus jiwa ku katakan padamu, betapa
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bagi sesiapa yang masih berada pada ruangan utama untuk conference kami, anda boleh memilih mana-mana bilik antara 1A dan 1B untuk mengikuti sesi tari kami lah, insyaAllah. Saya boleh pergi dekat bahagian ruangan partisipan. Dekat situ anda akan melihat bahagian atas ada pilihan sama ada bilik 1A atau 1B. Jadi insyaAllah boleh pilih antara kedua-dua pilihan itu untuk mengikuti sesi pembentangan sesi selari insyaAllah yang sedang berjalan sekarang. Sekian, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. For those of us who are still in the main room, we can actually go to the breakout session, which can be found at the participants list. So you have to go to the participants list. There you will see the breakout session. It has started, especially session 1A. So you can make your choice whether to go to session 1A or 1B. Go to the participants icon in this Webex, and from there you can choose your a breakout session that you want to attend to. Thank you. Assalamualaikum kepada yang masih berada di bilik utama secara maya ni ya, bilik utama IDMAC 2021. Untuk makluman para hadirin boleh mengikuti sesi selari menerusi ruangan yang terdapat dalam senarai partisipan di Webex ini. Di situ ada dinyatakan berkenaan sesi breakout atau sesi selari yang sedang berlangsung pada waktu ini. So dipersilakan semua yang berada di ruangan utama ini untuk bersama-sama kita buat pilihan dalam partisipan dan di situ kita boleh buat pilihan breakout session. Itu saja pengumuman. Terima kasih.
like to further communicate with me, please feel free to email, and inshallah we can share with you everything about this project. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah, thank you so much. I will definitely take up your offer. Thanks, mashallah.
Inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, baik. I'm very sorry, Dr. Asmawati, since we have very limited time. Okay, so I would like to call upon our second presenter. Okay, for the second presentation. So thank you very much, Dr. Asmawati, for your presentation. Your very interesting presentation.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, baik. For our second presentation, it is paper from Dr. Ahmad Saiful Anwar Ahmad Syukur and Dr. Shariza Muhammad Sanif, entitled Peranan Masjid dalam Mengurus Kemiskinan Bandar, Pengalaman Projek Masa. Okay, I would like to call upon, is it Dr. Saiful who would be presenting?
Ya, saya insyaAllah Dr. Fazila. InsyaAllah.
Ya, silakan. I will give up till 2:45, yeah, for the whole presentation, meaning presenting and also question and answer. Okay?
Alright.
Alright.
Okey. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Suara okey ke Dr. Fazila?
Yeah, suara okay. Are you sharing anything, Dr.
Ya.
Saiful?
Sharing slide.
Okay. So far, dekat saya tak nampak. I'm not
Oh.
sure about the other participant. Ada keluar tak dekat skrin masing-masing? So far,
Nampak doktor, tak nampak.
tidak ada. Okay.
Sekejap ya, saya cuba.
Okay, baik.
Dr. Fazila ada keluar ke? Saya
Tidak ada lagi setakat ini,
Oh.
Dr. Saiful.
boleh
Okay.
jadi takut masalah.
Can you send your presentation to me? Or, insyaAllah I can share your slide.
Okey. Minta maaf ya.
You can also send through WhatsApp, Dr. Saiful.
Ya, saya send through WhatsApp. Tengah send Dr. Fazila, dia tak sampai lagi. Sekejap
Okay, baik.
Okey, sementara tu mungkin saya boleh bercerita sedikit lah berkaitan dengan paperwork yang untuk saya share pada petang ini, insyaAllah.
Baik, silakan.
Okey, baik. Hari ini saya akan berkongsi pada tuan-puan, doktor sekalian berkaitan dengan peranan masjid dalam mengurus kemiskinan bandar berdasarkan kepada pengalaman projek masa. Okey. Okey, baik. Jadi paperwork pada hari ini, perkongsian pada hari ini adalah bertujuan untuk mengenal pasti dan menganalisis peranan bandar masjid dalam era revolusi industri keempat untuk mengurus kemiskinan bandar berdasarkan kepada pengalaman projek mamal sosioakademik MASA. Okey, jadi MASA tu adalah singkatan kepada projek mamal sosioakademik. Jadi MASA ni merupakan satu projek usaha sama di antara Pusat Kajian Pengurusan Pembangunan Islam ISDEF, Universiti Sains Malaysia dan juga Zakat Pulau Pinang dalam nak membangunkan insaniah dan sosioekonomi asnaf yang terpilih di satu mukim di Pulau Pinang. Jadi mengurus kemiskinan di bandar ni dia mempunyai cabaran yang tersendirilah. Okey, yang memerlukan institusi masjid di bandar nak memainkan peranan yang lebih dinamik dalam nak membantu anak karya yang sedang bergelumanglah dalam kemiskinan, apatah lagi dalam suasana pandemik COVID-19 yang menghalang pergerakan dan peluang golongan ini untuk mencari sumber dapatan. Okey, jadi insya-Allah pada petang ini saya akan berkongsikan kepada tuan-tuan dua persoalan asas, iaitu apakah yang dimaksudkan dengan mengurus kemiskinan oleh masjid di bandar dan apakah bentuk kerjasama yang telah dijalinkan di antara projek masa dengan surau, dengan surau An-Nur yang berkaitan dengan lokasi projek masa Sungai Nibong. Okey, untuk next slide. Okey, sebelum saya masuk kepada penjelasan lebih lanjut, jadi kita sesamalah kita tengok daripada sudut sorotan karya. Jadi kita nak lihat secara umumnya konsep ekonomi sekular ni dia merujuk kemiskinan sebagai golongan miskin yang serba kekurangan dan boleh dibezakan dengan dalam kategori miskin relatif dan sangat miskin atau miskin tegar. Okey, jadi menurut Profesor ataupun Muhammad Syukri Saleh tahun 2013 terdapat dua kategori kemiskinan menurut Islam. Yang pertama, kemiskinan yang dihadapi oleh seseorang yang miskin jiwanya dan juga miskin juga harta benda. Kedua, seseorang yang walaupun kaya dengan harta namun miskin dari sudut jiwanya. Okey, selain itu juga pengkaji atau pekarya daripada Green 2015 telah mengkaji tentang hubungan spiritual dari perspektif Islam secara bertumpu terhadap usahawan wanita Muslim di Malaysia. Jadi kajian mereka dapati hubungan dengan Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala bertindak sebagai denominator asas kepada definisi spirituality, iaitu memainkan peranan yang signifikan dalam penentuan keutamaan usahawan wanita Muslim terhadap fungsi mereka dalam nak uruskan hal ehwal keluarga, menjalankan tanggungjawab sosial dan pembuatan keputusan. Lebih utama lagi dalam kajian ini, tersebut telah mengetengahkan spiritual ni sebagai pendorong motivasi. Jadi berdasarkan kepada konsep kemiskinan Islam, golongan yang patut diberi tumpuan adalah golongan yang miskin harta dan juga miskin jiwa, serta golongan yang kaya harta tetapi miskin jiwa. Jadi mereka inilah yang patut dibantu sungguh-sungguh untuk meningkatkan diri mereka kepada paling tidak menjadi golongan miskin harta kepada kaya jiwa, atau lebih baik lagi kepada golongan yang kaya harta dan juga kaya jiwa. Okey. Jadi masjid ni adalah institusi umat Islam yang sangat penting dan berperanan sebagai pusat ibadat serta tempat nak laksanakan aktiviti demi nak mengumpulkan umat Islam, khususnya komuniti setempat. Okey, jadinya kalau kita tengok kajian-kajian lepas turut menyatakan keberkesanan aktiviti yang dianjurkan oleh pihak masjid sekaligus dapat menunjukkan kepentingan peranan masjid sebagai institusi yang memberi impak tinggi dalam menyampaikan mesej dakwah terhadap masyarakat. Okey, jadi Dr. Su, next. Okey, berdasarkan projek masa dan juga surau An-Nur Sungai Nibong Pulau Pinang, jadi situasi ekonomi Malaysia pada tahun 2021 ni masih belum stabil. Ekoran wabak COVID-19 yang masih meningkat. Okey, walaupun sekarang dia dah menunjukkan penurunan dan juga sebelum ni kerajaan telah mengumumkan PKP 3.0, walaupun pelaksanaan ini diberikan sedikit kelonggaran tetapi ianya memberi impak kepada sudut ekonomi sehinggakan pelbagai sektor menanggung kerugian. Jadi perkara ni saja sudah pasti dia memberi kesan yang sangat mendalam kepada semua masyarakat, terutamanya asnaf yang berada di bandar. Jadi justru itu pihak masjid, terutama Surau An-Nur Sungai Nibong ni mengambil inisiatif memberi bantuan kepada semua pihak yang terkesan dalam kawasan karya. Jadi menerusi Biro Kebajikan Sosial, asnaf dalam projek masa ni menerima bantuan secara konsisten setiap bulan bermula bulan April sehingga September tahun 2021. Jadi data tersebut boleh kita tengok dalam jadual Rajah 1. Jadi bantuan yang diberikan secara konsisten setiap bulan kerana Surau An-Nur ni dijadikan sebagai pusat pengagihan pelbagai agensi sama ada perseorangan ataupun kumpulan yang mahu memberikan bantuan kepada pihak yang memerlukan. Jadi kalau dalam jadual kita tengoklah daripada bulan April 2021 sehingga bulan sekarang, Oktober sehingga bulan sekarang pun Oktober, ada bantuan yang diberikan oleh pihak Surau An-Nur kepada ahli dalam projek masa air Sungai Nibong. Kalau kita tengok daripada 20 ke 18, okey, ini berlaku disebabkan oleh bila nak serahkan bantuan tu penerima tersebut tidak berada dalam kawasan karya. Okey, jadi sebab tu untuk tempoh tersebut Julai sampai September ada sedikit penurunan. Okey. Okey Dr. Su. Okey, manakala kalau dilihat dalam bentuk bantuan yang diterima, okey, 80% bantuan yang diberikan adalah merupakan barangan dapur sama ada barangan kering, barangan basah. Okey, 15% bantuan dalam bentuk kewangan dan hanya 5% saja bantuan yang diterima dalam bentuk lain-lain seperti keperluan kesihatan, kebersihan, peralatan dan lain-lain sepanjang daripada bulan April sehingga bulan September 21. Okey, walaupun bantuan yang diterima ni dalam jumlah yang kecil, namun pemberian yang diterima ni oleh ahli projek masa ni secara konsisten setiap bulan. Jadi perbuatan inilah yang menepati kepada amalan yang dicintai oleh Allah, iaitu amalan yang berterusan walaupun jumlahnya sedikit. Jadi bantuan yang diberikan oleh pihak Surau An-Nur ni bukan saja dapat membantu penerima tapi turut memudahkan penderma kerana dapat diagihkan secara berkelompok. Jadi dorongan dan motivasi yang diberikan pihak Surau An-Nur kepada penderma ni dapat melahirkan perasaan syukur, mewujudkan keberkatan dalam harta yang dimiliki, tanamkan rasa sifat keinsafan dalam diri, mengeratkan silaturahim, belas kasihan dan tanggungjawab sesama manusia. Okey, jadi apabila nikmat-nikmat yang Allah SWT berikan dapat disyukuri, maka nikmat-nikmat tersebut akan bertambah. Okey, sebagaimana dalam firman Allah Subhanahu Taala yang bermaksud dalam surah As-Sabah ayat ke-39, dan apa saja yang kamu belanjakan untuk kebaikan maka Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala akan menggantikannya, dialah sebaik-baik pemberi rezeki. Okey, jadi kalau kita tengok konsep kerjasama antara pihak Surau An-Nur dan juga projek masa merupakan kerjasama yang murnilah yang dipraktikkan. Kalau kita tengoklah berdasarkan firman Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala dalam surah Al-Maidah ayat kedua, dan hendaklah kamu bertolong-tolongan untuk membuat kebajikan dan bertakwa, dan janganlah kamu bertolong-tolongan dalam melakukan dosa, maksiat dan pencerobohan, dan bertakwalah kepada Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala kerana sesungguhnya Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala maha berat azab siksanya bagi sesiapa yang melanggar perintahnya. Okey, baik. Okey, jadi kalau kita lihat di dalam peluang ataupun orang kata apa, kerjasama, ada beberapa peluang-peluang yang boleh digunapakai bukan saja oleh pihak Surau An-Nur tetapi juga masjid ataupun di sekeliling ataupun di tempat-tempat lain. Jadi peluang nak imarahkan pembangunan ekonomi masjid ada 3. Okey, ada 3 cadangan yang diberi. Yang pertama adalah mesej dakwah, kedua jaringan dan ketiga ekonomi digital. Okey, jadinya kesediaan dan kebolehan bekerjasama ni antara individu organisasi sangat pentinglah dalam pembangunan konteks pembangunan rumah ni. Jadi kerjasama yang dijalinkan dapat nak memberi manfaat kepada semua pihak kerana setiap daripada mereka punya kelebihan dan kekuatan. Okey, jadinya yang pertama ni pembangunan ekonomi dan pembasmian kemiskinan melalui pendekatan dakwah. Masjid ni antara institusi yang boleh memainkan peranan besar lah kerana mempunyai golongan agamawan yang boleh menyampaikan pesanan dan cadangan kepada masyarakat yang terlibat. Jadi dalam keadaan yang sekarang ni, ceramah-ceramah yang disusun sama ada oleh pihak masjid ataupun surau perlulah mengaitkan dengan isu-isu berkaitan kemiskinan, sama ada ceramah berkenaan kelebihan keluar daripada kemiskinan, cara-cara mengelak kemiskinan, okey, hubungan akidah dengan kemiskinan. Jadi ceramah-ceramah di masjid ni yang mengaitkan pengajaran agama dengan isu semasa seperti kemiskinan sudah pasti dapat menarik masyarakat setempat untuk nak pelajari, nak mengimarahkan di samping memberi sedaran kepada penduduk setempat yang beragama Islam tentang kepentingan berzakat, okey, bersedekah, melakukan kerja-kerja amal bagi membantu golongan fakir dan miskin seperti yang dituntut dalam Islam. Tambahan pula, untuk hubungan sosial yang harmoni antara kaya dan miskin dapat melancarkan lagi penubuhan sebuah masyarakat Islam, maka menjadi kepentingan dalam merealisasikan pembangunan Islam di negara Malaysia. Kedua, keluasan jaringan. Sebarang aktiviti masjid terutama aspek ekonomi ni sangat memerlukan jaringan lebih luas kerana tidak cukup keperluan yang meluas akan menyebabkan pihak pengurusan masjid menghadapi situasi tekanan yang amat hebat. Walaupun begitu, masjid ni merupakan salah satu institusi yang perlu ditandangi masyarakat Islam setiap minggu. Okey, terutamanya pada hari Jumaat, dan ini memberi keutamaan kepada institusi masjid daripada aspek pasaran, okey, yang boleh dimaksimumkan bagi kebaikan semua pihak. Jadi dengan prospek dan pasaran yang besar sudah pasti dapat membantu peniaga mempromosikan perniagaan mereka kepada karya masjid. Dan yang ketiga, melalui ekonomi digital. Okey, pihak masjid dengan kerjasama pihak berkenaan sudah pasti boleh menjemput beberapa pakar, tokoh maupun influencer bagi memberikan bimbingan, motivasi dan program seperti mentorship kepada bakal-bakal usahawan digital. Jadi projek sebegini sudah pasti akan menarik masyarakat kepada masjid, khususnya golongan remaja dan juga pelajar yang dapat mendapat tempat dalam hati mereka. Okey, jadi kalau kita tengok Dr. Muhammad Daud Bakar, projek ni dikenali sebagai ekonomi digital di bawah bumbung masjid. Ya saya.
Waktu dah nak habis dah ni, boleh percepatkan?
Boleh Dr. Su. Last kesimpulan.
Okey, baik.
Next slide. Okey, kesimpulannya masjid ni merupakan institusi yang dapat menyuburkan ibadah seperti ibadah solat. Jadi ibadah ni akan membentuk hubungan dengan Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala dan hubungan sesama manusia. Jadi jika peranan masjid ini diperluaskan secara berterusan kepada masyarakat, maka permasalahan masyarakat Islam terutamanya masalah aspek ekonomi akan dapat dikurangkan dan juga menjadi wadah penting dalam pembinaan modal insan. Jadi masjid ini berperanan sebagai jantung dan nadi masyarakat. Jadi oleh kerana itu, ia perlu dipelihara dengan baik dan berkesan. Jadi fungsi dan peranan ni akan terselah jikalau masjid dapat diurus dengan baik, khususnya melalui pelbagai program yang dirancang yang mampu memberi impak yang sangat besar kepada pembinaan modal insan dan ekonomi masyarakat setempat. Jadi oleh kerana itu, cadangan-cadangan atau idea yang diutarakan tadi dapat memberikan sumbangan ke arah nak meningkatkan keberkesanan pengurusan masjid di samping menjadi panduan pihak pengurusan masjid menguruskan secara efektif dan membangunkan masyarakat Islam, insya-Allah. Baik Dr. Su, terima kasih.
Baik, Alhamdulillah. Terima kasih banyak Dr. Saiful atas pembentangan. Baik, saya buka kepada satu soalan daripada peserta. Silakan. Ada soalan tak? Okey, kalau tak ada, terima kasih banyak Dr. Saiful. Saya minta maaf, saya terpaksa pergi kepada pembentang yang ketiga pula. Okay. Which is the third presentation will be by Brother Ehwal with Associate Professor Dr. Syahir Akram Hassan presentation entitled Reducing Mass Gathering on Congregational Prayers During COVID-19 Pandemic in Malaysia according to Al-Taksil Al-Fiqhi. Okay, I would like to call upon Brother Awal. Tafadhal mashkura. Brother Awal, I cannot hear you. Are you saying something? You do not unmute. Please unmute your mic. Okay.
Okay, sorry, Doctor.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
It seems that your sharing has stopped.
Yeah. I will
Okay.
share it again. Sorry. Okay. Can you please see my slide now?
Yes, I can see the slide now. You can
Okay,
see.
okay.
Yeah. All
Thank
right.
you so much, Associate Professor Dr. Fazila Azini Ahmad, for giving me opportunity to present our paper in this 15th International Islamic Development Management Conference, IDMAC 2021.
Brother Awal, can you click at the slideshow button down there?
Okay.
Yes. Okay. All right.
Okay, can you see it well? Huh? So the paper, as you can see, can you hear me, Doctor?
Yes. Alhamdulillah, we can
Okay.
hear you and also can see the slide.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. So the topic is about reducing mass gathering on congregational prayers during COVID-19 pandemic in Malaysia, according to Al-Ta'sil Al-Fiqhi. The paper is authored by Associate Professor Dr. Shahir Akram Hassan and Muhammad Awal Salisu. The introduction of the paper is sought to provide an overview of current mosque situation in Malaysia after the incident of COVID-19 pandemic, which necessitated Malaysian Islamic Affairs to close the place of worship and reduce mass gathering, including 5 daily prayers and congregational prayers at MASJID, as well as weekly congregational prayers in all the Malaysian states, more especially in most affected areas, Kuala Lumpur, Selangor, Kedah, and Penang. And according to the scholars of Islamic jurisprudence law, all adolescents and adult men are commanded to offer congregational prayers 5 times a day in the mosque. Friday prayers are also to be offered at the city central mosque in a larger gathering on a weekly basis. Prayers are offered by standing in rows in close proximity to each other. However, the current condition of COVID-19 is causing not only a health and economic crisis, but also a religious challenge, which necessitated all mass gathering to be suspended, including religious gathering among other 5 daily prayers, Jumat prayers, as well as distancing, standing style in close proximity to each one another in the role. Many researches were conducted in the field of usul al-fiqh and Islamic fatwa based on al-ta'asil al-fiqhi according to this contemporary and unexpected incidents of COVID-19 pandemic. The most affected areas of interest including salat prayers, mosque management activities, mosque development in the new pandemic situation, reducing mass gathering and new standing style, rows for close proximity to each other. The problem of this, the statement of the problem that this paper sought to solve is hereby stated in the following question. How could Islamic fatwa be sufficient enough to address and attract Muslim congregation in accepting religious authority and mosque management decision for 1 meter SOP distancing, as well as reducing mass gathering in congregations? and how this will influence spiritual feelings of Muslims after the above mentioned SOP implemented. So also how SOP could be suitable or accepted in the new era of COVID-19 pandemic, and how the basis of Hibs and Nafs, according to Maslaha mechanism of Maqasid al-Sharia, could be the novelty of the justification of data in cooling the Muslim spiritual feelings. The objective of this study is to identify the current situation of congregational prayers based on 1 meter SOP in Malaysia and its spiritual effect, to analyze the current situation of congregational prayers based on 1 meter SOP according to Al-Tasil Al-Fiqhi, that is Al-Qiyas and Al-Maslaha. The methodology, the documentary review of existing literatures, also and researches, also library research data from classical and contemporary Islamic scholars will be used to present a sound legal theory of successful Islamic fatwa to strengthen the decision made by religious authorities and mosque management committee on the Islamic concept. The findings, before the findings, the analysis of the data is the paper used Al-Ta'asir al-Fiqhi, that is the new and the contemporary issues that occurred and has no text, Quranic text or Hadith text on it. Then the contemporary issues will be used according to analogical deduction or according to al-Maslaha as one of the primary and secondary sources of Sharia law to give the new law under the contemporary issues. So according to analogical deduction rules, Al-Qiyas as one of the 4 Sharia primary sources, since a person that eats garlic or onion is prohibited to come to the mosque for the congregation, according to the narration of Imam Ibn Majah that reported the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, who says, whoever eats from these 2 plants, let him not come near our place of prayers. That is the masjid also. The consequences of coming to the mosque result to the bad smelling that will disturb people at the mosque and not necessarily kill them. But the virus of COVID-19 pandemic that is communicable and easy to spread and infect others as well as kill is in better position to reduce mass gathering in congregation and avoid close contact, or to introduce new 1 meter SOP, which has happened in Malaysia and many countries, in standing on rows, that is standing on a saf, and may lead mosque closer temporarily if necessary, which it has been in many mosques and in many states and in many countries nowadays. This is what Islamic jurists classified as al-qiyas al-awla, that is main qiyas. On another hand, the second analysis based on, the first one is the first analysis based on analogical deduction, that is al-qiyas al-awla. The second analysis is based on public interest, that is al-maslaha al-mursala. As a secondary sources of the Sharia, and according to the content of above text of hadith, that is hadith of reported by Ibn Majah and many other hadiths, permit religious congregation without taking necessary measures will cause people to the risk of virus, either in spreading or in delaying for cure. As such, any one of the 2 will lead the people into the critical condition of this virus, or even to death, which is against public interest of the people, according to Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 195. That is the sayings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The sayings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. Don't pull your hands or yourself in what will cause you to the death. Then and Surah An-Nisa, verse 29, that is sayings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Don't kill yourself. So remaining in mosque, remaining in rows without reducing mass gathering, without taking measure of 1 meter SOP, is like against what this verses has provided. So this is the second analysis according to the al-maslaha al-mursala, which is among the secondary sources of Sharia. The conclusion of the paper concluded on having good enough justification to retain the decision of most management committee in the new pandemic era and clear spiritual doubt of Muslims, because many Muslims are in doubt and are not spiritual ready to follow from the beginning, because the mosque is an institution that will give them spiritual rest. Now we are in a contemporary situation that we must stop going to mosque, or we must reduce going mosque, or we must not shake our hands in mosque, or we must not stand close to each other. So this will definitely affect their spiritual rest, spiritual belief. So using this analysis, which is according to the one primary sources of Sharia, that is Al-Qiyas, and according to the one secondary source of Sharia, that is according to Maslaha Mursala, will clear the doubt of a Muslim believer for the new and unexpected mosque condition, since it is backed by analogical deduction and public interest, that is Qiyas and Al-Maslaha, both among the primary and secondary sources of Sharia. Recommendations. Since the findings of this paper showed that there is currently positive result as well as Sharia justification in reducing mass gathering of congregational prayers, the new style of 1 meter SOP in standing on rows and temporary mosque closure in some cases. Nonetheless, more research needs to be carried out to come up with the beauty of Sharia in contemporary issues like these, to justify the suitability of Sharia law for every time and place. More capacities need to be improved for the alignment of Islamic contemporary issues whenever it occurs, and influence it to suit public interest of the entire Muslim community. The research also recommend on how the researchers will respond in future for COVID-19 pandemic and other communicable diseases based on Islamic perspectives and through the application of al-ta'asir al-fiqhi for the development of mosque institution. Thank you so much for listening. Okay, over to you, Doctor.
All right, Alhamdulillah. Congratulations, Brother Awal. Thank you. So I would like to open to the floor. Are there any questions to ask to our presenter here, please?
Yes,
Go ahead.
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Assalamualaikum, Dokter. Assalamualaikum, Professor. I
Waalaikumsalam.
have, I am Ahmad UPSD student at ISDEF. I have one brief question for you, Brother Aul. Do you think that according to your study, the fatwa making process should consider the scientific evidence from the doctor, for example, or Ministry of Health in Malaysia? Thank you.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In response to the question of the brother Hudayfa Ahmad, thank you so much. Yes, I suggest that fatwa making process that should use and accept what health institutions provide in terms of taking measures regarding COVID-19 pandemic, since it is not against the Islamic fatwa based on the analysis delivered and conducted by this research. That is the analysis of al-ta'asil al-fiqhi on the analogical deduction, that is al-qiyas al-awla. Because if the Prophet ﷺ asks Muslim not to come to mosque because we eat garlic or onion, and eating garlic and onion will not cause to sickness or talkless of death, just something that will put someone not in good situation. So the COVID-19 is in better position to deal with to stop people coming to each other, to coming close to other. So I think this is according to Al-Ta'sir Al-Fiqhi based on Al-Qiyas Al-Awla, is agreed. So also according to Al-Maslaha Al-Mursala, as we mentioned, because this will lead to delay in cure and will even lead to death. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ, and many other Islamic texts that this research mentioned in terms of Al-Quran, Al-Hadith. I hope I answer your question, sir.
Yes, sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for answering.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Okay. Are there any questions that the participant want to raise? I can give one more, and you can raise question to either the first presenter, the second presenter, or the third presenter. Anyone who would like to ask? Final and the last question. Are there any? Okay, so it seems like no more questions. Congratulations to all presenters, Dr. Asmawati Muhammad, Dr. Ahmad Saiful, and also Brother Awal Salisu for a very interesting presentation today. Alhamdulillah. So thank you also to every participant for your participation in this session. So I would like to give the floor to the next session chair for the session 2A, which is Dr. Azrin Hamiza.
Okay, Doctor, may I ask one question, please?
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay, I thought after the presentation of the three presenters of the first session, you are going to give your personal comment on the papers so that we can correct the errors and we can attend to the comment in order to make paper more suitable in the future. Inshallah.
Okay. Inshallah. Okay, I'm not aware of that. But since we are time is very limited, okay. But overall, all the papers, Alhamdulillah, have given us very much exposure on different aspects of development of mosque institutions, where we start with Dr. Asmawati with a green or eco surau, and Dr. Saiful on the development of Asnaf, okay, by Surau An-Nur, and then at the final presentation by our brother Awal Salisu, which touched on the fatwa regarding the congregational prayer, which should be held in mosque and also surau during the pandemic. Okay. So far, okay, my comments are all the papers are good, Alhamdulillah, and inshallah tomorrow we will have a specific session in order to improve all of our papers so that we can convert it into a publishable document, inshallah, tomorrow afternoon. Okay, so that will be, inshallah, I think that will be all for today. Okay, Brother Awal, is that okay?
Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate it.
Yes, Alhamdulillah. So the session 2A is supposed to start at 3 o'clock. I would like to apologize to the session chair, Dr. Azrin Hamiza, for taking 10 minutes away from you. So I would like to give to Dr. Azrin for the next session for our IDMAC. Silakan, Dr. Azrin.
Alhamdulillah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's okay, Dr. Skaina. Just a few minutes, 10 minutes extra. I believe hopefully we can finish the session on time. Okay, we are now on the concurrent session 2A for the theme of Islamic Development Management. So I believe all the presenters are here. Puan Rosita Marina is here. Mr. Asharidi also is here. And then do we have Mr. Cairo? Mr. Cairo Akmalia, the third presenter. Do we have the third presenter here? Okay, we have the third presenter here.
Yes.
Okay, and then we have the fourth presenter, Mr. Amirul Amar, right? Okay, Amirul Amar, I believe I saw him. Okay, yeah. Okay, all the fourth presenter are here. Okay, before we start our session for the concurrent session 2A, all the presenters have 20 minutes in total. So you have like plus minus 10 to 15 minutes to present your papers. And then after that, we're going to open for another Q&A session from all other participants. If we do have any Q&A session, question and answer. And then after that, we're going to proceed with the next presenter afterwards. Okay, first of all, I would like to welcome Puan Norazita Marina Abdul Aziz to present her paper on Islamic ethics framework within Imam Al-Ghazali's thought in developing Islamic accounting concept. Puan Norazita Marina, please, you can start presenting now by sharing your screen if you have any presentation.
Ya, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Today I would like to present on the Islamic ethics framework within the Imam Al-Ghazali's thought in developing Islamic accounting concept. So this title or this area, it revolves from my PhD. Actually, when I did my zoological stances on the formatting of the philosophical stances, it came out that the very important element in constructing the Islamic accounting concept is actually from the zoological stances, which is actually from the morality function and also the ethics. Okay, this paper is written together with my supervisor, which is actually Prof. Madya Dr. Fazila Asni Ahmad, sorry. And then it talks about it gives highlight on the framework, on the Islamic ethics framework, right? So the first one, we go to the introduction. On the introduction, we find that there is an accounting scandals, okay, in global setting area. So for example, like there are in Malaysia, we have one MDB, we have more on the concern on the misinterpretation of fraudulent cases in Malaysia and also worldwide. In US, we have Enron, we have WorldCom, and we have a few other cases on the accounting scandals. So from this perspective, it was written that there is a misinterpretation and fraudulent case, which is actually highlighted that in the cases that it is actually misinterpretation of financial statement, which is supposed to be disclosed in a proper manner. So in Islamic philosophical stances, which is actually relates to the zoological stances, which is included two elements, which is aesthetic and moral imperatives, because to seek for the true knowledge. So for this, the paper seek to have the Islamic ethics framework based on the construction of the Imam Ghazali's thought, so that it can come up with the proper Islamic accounting concept to eliminate and also to reduce the ambiguity and also the association with fraud. And then from the Latin, morality is actually means behavior, character, or proper conduct. So morality in terms of the group of people, which is actually the individual, is very important. Once the individual has the true doing wrong, try to forbid from doing the wrong thing. So indirectly, the right and wrong position is actually articulated in the characteristic of individual. So when it comes to the Islamic situation, we have the complementary, whereby the morality and evil is actually being set out by Allah, whereby we need to understand that there is the difference between the law, the lawful and unlawful regulations and rules, which is already set in the Islamic Sharia law. So with these regards, all right, the Islam is actually believes that we need to undertaken the moral and try to forbid from doing the immoral situation. So for this, the Islamic ethics from the Sharia perspective, it is actually also relates to the legal system, whereby it's not only related to the individual, but is also related to society welfare, which indirectly that causes the harm of the moral of the people or the community. So the individual and also the community is actually has to work hand in hand and also has to be collaborated indirectly to fulfill the hablum minallah and hablum minallah, hablum minannas, which is actually the eternal, divine and safe to the Islamic society, which is actually related to the ethics. So for Islam, it's not, we are not talking about the standards, but we also have the moral codes with neighbors, with friends, for business transactions. So this is the thing that we are going to concern, not only to deal with close friends and so relatives, but which is actually conduct to the environment, to the social community, the interaction, and also the private and public community. So this is the whole system that constitute the Islamic ethics. So for this Islamic ethics, which is actually permitted by law and which is unlawful, this actually guidelines and also highlighted the wrongdoings and the right and wrong, what we are supposed to be doing, which actually entitlement of the human life. So the human agency, you have to ensure that individual is the substance of the or the individual is actually the means in order to justify the substance, right? So in this case, the research methodology is used, which is actually referring to the Islamic Imam Ghazali's book, which is actually developed. From there, we developed the ethics on the morality function. So from here, and also Minhaj Abidin, Mizan Al-Amal, and also Mishkatul Anwar and Mukashafah Qulub, and also other references which is actually related to the Al-Ghazali thoughts. And then from there, we have undertaken the analysis where it is actually constructed through the Islamic perspective to get to the Islamic ethics framework. So the findings here, from the findings, we can justify that there are 5 elements, all right, in the function of the from the Imam Ghazali's, whereby is it the body, soul, your mind, and then qalb, and also your heart. So it's actually very important part, which is actually the elements of the derivation. Where in the internal narrative of the Nur ala Nur. So from here we constitute from the kitab of Mishkatul Anwar, that would be a level of the internal narrative of Nur ala Nur, which actually constitute from the qalb. So the knowledge and nur or light is very important, because once you get the true guidance from Allah, so therefore it can constitute into a full of the worship, and also the you are going to create the ethics and morality of your individual. The individuality function is very important, because it is actually based on your true heart. So the heart here is actually the soul. That is what Al-Ghazali shared, that the guidance or the clue of the heart is actually based on the qalbu, whereby it can be undertaken from the qalb, the lower of the qalb. Therefore, it can highlighted here the worship of the action based on the guidance from Allah and also the true lights. And then from here, we move on to the once you got the worship of Allah from doing the right and forbid doing the wrong things, therefore it constitutes the ethics and morality that is actually being guided by the lights of Allah. So this is internal narrative, which is very important. The soul is very important because it is actually constitute the human agency. And then the second part, we go to the morality and individuality. This is the function of internal derivation of human agency or human nature. And then the second one is the function of individual. So the function of individual here is actually doing the amal soleh and also to do the virtuous deed. So in this, as to be a human or individual, we are going to have the we are going to do the or portray the level of worship by doing the actions. So what are the actions that we have to be doing? Okay, so it is actually constitute what from your soul that is going to transfer to your actions. So your piety, your humility, and your profound sense of accountability to God is very important because it will justify your character as a Muslim. So next, we move on to the situation where it is actually the function of the individual to God. So Al-Ghazali stated also that the humbleness is very important because it will constitute a greedy, it will deviate the greediness. So once the individual has this the worship and also the pittiness, therefore indirectly the Muslim will be having a good soul. Indirectly they will exercise self-control and also the passion and desire. Next, what are the human behavior? So the Islamic ethical behavior is very important to the character of which is very important for the modern life. So here we are talking about the teaching of the Quran and Hadith, whereby it is actually based on the Islamic jurists. It's actually based on the Sharia and fiqh. And then the other information which is very important is actually the code of ethics or the code of conduct based on the ethical values, which is actually derived from the individual to the family, and it goes to the society plus the economic and also to the politics and judiciary. So this is actually very important because it is actually constitute the khair. Khair is rightness. Maslahah, which is actually a public interest. His is actually the equity, adil or justice. Haq, which is true. Ma'ruf, which is actually approved to known as a good deeds. Okay. Nahi munkar, avoiding the bad, right? And also the taqwa, the piety, which is actually stated in the Al-Ghazali's Ihya, Minhaj Abidin, and also the Mishkatul Anwar. Now, the additional of the very important on the constitute of the good deeds also is forbid the evil deeds. So from here, I deduce the Islamic morality function, which is related to the construction of the Islamic accounting, which is actually the bribery of doing or disclosing a good financial information, consideration, which is actually honest, trust, loyalty, politeness, aiding others, and sincerity and responsibility, experience, which is actually based on the long-term timeliness of the financial accounting, fairness and justice in actually following the representation of a good, proper financial reports, honesty in justifying any monetary values, on being knowledge is actually the know-how is very important in accounting because it's actually based on the standards of the accounting standards of the concept in order to deliver a good function of financial reporting. And then the last one, which is actually the framework, which is actually the morality to the society. So it is actually increases the moral, indirectly the moral health of the society. So providing the fraud and also the corruption in the society is not only being responsible to the society itself, but also it is actually from the justifiable and also from the individual position. So this is actually what we are this paper as enlightening that the individual or he or she must not only abstain from the evil and vice, but also actively persuade others to do so. So it's not only about individual, but it's about persuading others as a society to undertaken this a good of the morality function. From discussion and conclusion, right? So the ethics and morality function is actually about the humanity character, which is already stated in the Quran, and also the worship of Allah, and also doing good things and abstain from doing the wrong thing or the evil. And then in the global setting, it's very important whereby the Islamic accounting or Islamic ethics is actually in a global development and also very important in construction of the Islamic accounting concept in Malaysia, especially in the Waqaf and Zakat. So from there, we constitute the Islamic ethics framework from the construction of the Islamic concept, which is actually based on Al-Ghazali's thought. So the form of internal function is very important because it leads to the function of the individuality, and this function of individuality is actually created through the very Islamic ethics behavioral function, and then that persuade the community to get a very good impact in the constructing of the Islamic accounting concept. And this is a final slide, and with that, thank you so much. And I hand this session to Dr. Azrin. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah, just in time for the presentation, Puan Razita. I believe the purpose of this paper is basically interesting in, developing one framework, Islamic ethics framework based on Al-Ghazali's thought, which is at least it can help to reduce, or we want to eliminate any unethical or fraud practice in accountancy. Okay, I would like to open any questions from the participants. Anyone would like to ask a question regarding this paper on the Islamic ethics framework within the Imam Al-Ghazali's thought in developing Islamic accounting concept? So far, okay, in the chat, few of the participants said tiada question, no question so far. Okay, I believe no questions so far, Puan Razita Marina. So insyaAllah, if we do have question, maybe we can postpone it until the end of the session after all the presenters have present. If you have any question, maybe you can save it for later. Okay, thank you very much, Puan Razita Marina, for the interesting presentation on the Islamic ethics framework within Imam Al-Ghazali's concept. Okay, now I would like to move on to our second presenter, Mr. Adia Reddy Setiawan and Dr. Muni Yusof. Okay, Mr. Adia will be presenting his paper with Dr. Muni on entitled Islamic Village Development Management, a Systematic Literature Review. Okay, Pak Reddy, are you ready? So you can share the screen and start presenting now.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Asrin Hamizah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah wa syukurillah la nikmatillah salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah nabiyina Muhammad bin Abdillah wa ala alihi wa wala. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. This afternoon I will present our paper that has written by me and Dr. Berhormat Yusuf with title Islamic Village Development Management, a Systematic Literature Review. Okay, this paper started with the insight that the village as a peripheral area and inhabited by the most population of a country live. When we talking about the village development management or system is an integrated mechanism in the country's economic and social development. As we know, villages in many developing countries that are socioeconomic are classified as mid-low strata are still in the process of transforming towards a better direction. So when we talking about the village development management, the majority of this term is based on strong economic measures. So the measure of this economic development success mainly rely on numbers that are materialistic and economically measurable. These measures exclude other concepts and standards which are qualitative and non-materialistic. At this point, we are acquainted with the idea of Islamic village development that we call Islamic village development or VDM, Village Development Management. So, Islamic VDM in this study is the concept of village development characterized by the achievement of holistic goals, not just material, socio-economic, but also physical and also spiritual. We think that Islamic village development seems crucial to be explored as Islam represents cultural economy and cultural authenticity. So the research objective of this study will be focusing on a review of a global Islamic village development management systematically. This review's main purpose is to empirically understand, we can gather the holistic understanding regarding a particular topics about Islamic VDM. So the research question is, what are the global insights from previous research on Islamic village development management practice? This study aims to present the gap in the previous studies in this concern or this theme to obtain more understanding of the concept of Islamic VDM. We expect that it will be provide a comprehensive experience of the idea of Islamic village development that currently exists. We use SLR in this study. SLR is one of the methodologies to analyze and evaluate existing literature in more systematic way. It offers detail on the review process to reproduce the investigation, confirm the analysis, or study the generality. It refers to Muhammad Safril et al. 2020. This study utilizes RAMESES. It's a realist and meta-narrative evidence synthesis evolving standard as suggested by Wong et al. As standard for preliminary publication standard. Why we use RAMESES? Since is referred to Samsudin et al. Is suitable to systematically reviews of literature in social sciences. So we use 3 pages in this study, which are identification, screening, eligibility plus quality price, IC plus, we put IC. It's this is a keyword that we have used we have two databases, it's Scopus and Google Scholar. And in the next table is regarding inclusion and exclusion criteria. It's in the eligibility phase. We just collect literature type in index journal, in English, it's only English language, and timeline between 2010 until 2020. Based on the analysis, we have several pieces and resulted in just only 10 papers that included in the synthesis. The analysis process resulted in two main themes. First is Islamic microfinance for rural development or poverty alleviation. And second theme is supporting role in rural development by NGO. The first theme produces three sub-themes by Bangladesh practice, in Malaysia practice, and Indonesia's practice. That then and the second themes we have one sub-theme which pesantren supporting role. Based on the analysis, we can see that the central theme of Islamic village development management is on the role of Sharia-based microfinance. From 10 papers, we have 9 papers that talking about Islamic village, the role of Sharia-based microfinance institution. That is practice is found in Bangladesh, Malaysia, and Indonesia, which are all three these countries are majority Muslim population countries. In the context of village development management, Islamic microfinance institution plays a major role in efforts to alleviate poverty in the Muslim world, most of whom live in villages. Unlike conventional microfinance, which only deal with economic aspect, this Islamic microfinance institution acts as not only financial intermediary but also social intermediary. So it can be said that this Islamic microfinance institution is part of the Islamic economic system that substantially blends community welfare, ethics, and morality, and real financial aspect. From the analysis, we can also see that conceptual and practical experiences from various countries is confirmed that the Islamic financial institution is important, particularly in poverty reduction efforts. Yeah. Given that most of the poor live in rural areas, the role of Islamic microfinance institution needs to be integrated systematically and structurally in the framework of village development management. It can be separated from Islam village development management. So we suggest that the state needs to develop a concept that involves the massive role of Sharia-based microfinance institution in village, especially in the Islamic world countries. The second theme highlights the Islamic boarding called pesantren. It's only found one paper that talking about the function of pesantrens to participate in the village development process. So from the Hudayfi and Haryani paper recommended that the government of Indonesia consider the pesantrens to be involved legally and systematically in its rural development program. As we know, pesantren has a long experience in the development process, so it needs to be systematically accommodated in the framework of village development management. The conclusion of this paper has filled the gap in understanding research themes and particular topics, namely Islamic village development management. From this analysis, we have two primary themes, and the second, the role of pesantren, role in Indonesia. According to review results, most studies on Islamic village development were conducted in three Muslim majority population, which are in Bangladesh, followed by Indonesia and Malaysia. So it recommended to review in other Muslim population country. And the second one, the result of study could facilitate science development in the area of this topic to build a comprehensive concept of village development based on the more ideal Islamic principle or value. This review strongly recommends such policy recommendation to a country's government to include micro-financial institution and also pesantren role in the village development program. When we talking about pesantren and or Islamic boarding, we have example in Banua village, for example, in Hatay in southern Thailand, that the village development model include Islamic boarding school that has a central role. So it's all of my presentation. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Back to Dr. Asim.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Pak Ridi. Okay, Alhamdulillah, you have only taken like 12 minutes to present. Short and precise. Okay, I would like to open the floor from the participant for any questions. You can ask directly by unmute your microphone, or you can ask directly in the chat area. So,
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
With your permission, Dr. Azin,
Silakan.
I'm allowed to raise question. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes.
Pak Reddy, I know that you are always ready because your name is ready. You did mention about the keyword for your study is village. As a PhD student, I just want to know that I'm curious that why did you use the village terminology instead of community, for example? Yeah. Probably, as far as we are concerned, that a village is regarded as administrative region. When it deals with community, it probably interconnect the several village, for example, or society inside the village. Thank you, Pak Reddy. I know. Thank you. Makasih, Dokter.
Okay, thank you, my brother Hudaifa, my colleague from Universitas Islam International Semen Indonesia. Okay, I specifically use the term of Islamic village development. Yeah, I don't mention about community. So it's starting from the idea that village as a peripheral area, yeah, and majority of population of a country usually live in village. So it's related to the context of in Indonesia, where we call Islamic development. Village development, which we have structure of the government from the central government, provincial government, district government until village government. So we actually use this term to construct or to build a village development management, not community, but it's based on a village. So it's I think it's the reason why we call it the Islamic village development management. Thank you.
Yes, many thanks, Pak Ridi, for helping me to understand the way you study your project. Thank you. Makasih,
Thank you.
Dokter. I hand on to
Okay, Pak Edi, from that question, I'm eager to ask. Can I ask a question? I can ask a question too, right? Okay, from the question, okay, you said you are using the term Islamic Village Development Management. Okay, and then Pak Hudaifah here asked, why don't you use the word community development and so on? Okay, but you mentioned there because most of the population in the country are, most of the people are living in a village. Okay, what is the definition of village used in your study? I mean, like, do you have the population size? Is it depending on the population size, or is it just depending on is it based on the population or on the area itself?
Yeah.
Based on what you have found in the literature. Usually, the village that comes from the literature are based from the population or the yeah.
Yeah, from the literature that I have found, that we collect from the SLR methodology, it refers to an area, an area that most population live there, and so it becomes essential focus of study in the development of a nation. So a nation started with a village and as a peripheral area. Yeah. So I think if we can build an Islamic village development based on Islamic perspective it's very well. We can build and the upper side of structure of government will be better. So it refers to an area that all the microfinancial institution and also pesantren, it's contribute to village development. That's all, Mr. Dr. Azim. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Reddy. Any other questions from the participants today? Before we proceed to the next presenter, so at least we can open to at least one questions. I suppose in the chat there are none questions. Okay, thank you very much, Pak Reddy, for the presentation just now and for answering the questions that we had. Alhamdulillah. Okay, now we are going to proceed to our third presenter. This presentation is going to be presented by Khairul Akmaliyah Adham. On the topic entitled Halal Research in Muslim Minority Context, a Systematic Literature Review. Okay, Puan Khairul, I believe you are here. Now the floor is yours.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Dr. Azrin, the Madam Chairperson. My name is Khairul Akmaliyah. I am from the Graduate School of Muamalat, Faculty of Economics and Muamalat at USIN. Inshallah, the topic of my presentation today, sekejap ya, saya offkan video ya, Doktor, because
Kan.
macam mana saya nak offkan?
Kalau dekat bahagian atas tu. Kan dekat yang tempat kita present tu, dekat bahagian atas tu dia macam ada drop down list. Dekat situ ada boleh off video.
Kita nak offkan tak apalah ya.
Tak.
Okay. Alright. Okay, so the topic of my presentation is halal research in Muslim minority context. I will also be using methodology of SLR, a systematic literature review. This paper is actually co-authored by 3 persons, myself, Dr. Nur Saadah from UKN, and also Dr. Muhammad Fuad Said from UPN. And this research is financially supported by a research grant of CCKF Chiang Ching-Po Foundation based in Taiwan. Okay, so this is my presentation outline. Inshallah, I will be providing some background to conducting this research, leading to the formulation of the research objective and also the research question. And then I will briefly explain about the methodology of review. We have actually seen some of the points being highlighted by the previous speaker. And then inshallah, I will proceed to findings and discussion as well as conclusion of the study. So if we look at the situation in the global industry today, halal or Muslim one of the biggest global markets. In fact, by 2019, the global halal market value is estimated at $2.2 trillion. And then by 2024, this number is expected to increase to USD 3.2 trillion. Okay, so the potential growth of this industry not only attract the interest Muslim majority countries, but also Muslim minority countries. In fact, if we look at the statistics, countries such as Brazil, Australia, and India, which are actually Muslim minority countries, are amongst the world's biggest producers of halal supplies and products. And then, if we look at the context of Muslim minority countries, we can assume that the knowledge about Islam is not widespread amongst the very small population of Muslims. But they not only among the biggest exporters to the Muslim market, they are also host to an influx of inbound Muslim tourists. So these countries include Japan and South Korea. So this situation is a concern to the Muslim Ummah as seeking of halal is compulsory to Muslims when we are in our country as well as when we are traveling abroad. So basically seeking of halal is a religious obligation. Thus issues related to halal matters are fundamental to all Muslims. So the situation of the Muslim minority countries providing to the Muslims establishes the need to examine the existing knowledge base about halal in the context of Muslim minority societies. So this led to the objective of our study, which is to explore the emerging themes and sub-themes related to halal or halal aspects in the existing literature. So for this purpose, we utilize the systematic literature review methodology. So our research question is, what are the research that has been conducted on halal industry or about halal aspects in Muslim minority countries? So the methodology of review is systematic literature review. So we see that systematic literature review, allows for the systematization of the analysis of knowledge. It is also selected as helps us to overcome some of the limitations related to traditional literature review. So traditional literature review, according to some of the papers that we have reviewed, suggests that this type of review, traditional literature review, sometimes suffer from issues of lack of systematicness in the selection of articles to be included in the review, and to a certain extent, they have issues of lack of transparency in the process of conducting the review. So this led to issues of subjectivity and biasness. So for this study, we conducted a systematic literature review of empirical research articles and using the protocol that has been adopted from ROSES. So the articles that we include in this paper was sourced mainly through the databases of Scopus, Web of Science, as well as handpicked from Google Scholar. So we use the ROSES protocol as discussed by Hadawi 2018. Okay, so this is the ROSES protocol that we use. So if we are familiar with the ROSES protocol procedure, we see that ROSES contain 4 main aspects. The first one is the formulation of the research question, and then the identification and screening and eligibility procedure. Then we proceed to appraisal of quality, and then ROSES also presented some approaches to how we are able to extract our data and conduct the analysis. So we started with, okay, this is our search string, Muslim minority, minority Muslim, non-Muslim, halal, halal food. So all these, and then we ended up getting 55 articles here. And then we proceeded to appraise the quality of the articles. In the end, we generated 22 selected articles, accepted articles for data extraction and analysis. Yeah, that's okay. So here are our findings. I will first present the descriptive analysis. So in terms of sources of articles, we see that the paper related to halal in Muslim minority countries are accepted in various types of journal. The most popular ones include Journal of Islamic Marketing and also British Food Journal. And there are also some papers, 2 papers in Journal of Muslim Minority Affairs. And the trends in publication, as we can see, actually, the first study being conducted is about meat consumption, halal meat consumption in France. And then later on, we have several more papers, and then the most papers are published in 2019. And then this is regarding the sectors in which the articles are concerned with. So we see that the most are actually focusing on halal food products. Some papers focus on halal meat and also halal tourism. There has been some interest in halal personal care products. Okay, in terms of context of studies, several studies are conducted in Australia and United Kingdom, and I think 1 or 2 papers actually discuss comparative analysis of multiple countries. Yeah? Okay, here I want to present to you the major findings, which is the emergent themes and the sub-themes. So from the 22 papers, we are able to generate 5 themes, 5 major themes, which are consumer behavior, halal assurance practices, management of halal business operations, governance of halal industry, and issues of halal industry in Muslim minority context. And from these themes, we are able to generate a total of 18 sub-themes related to each of these themes. So in the consumer behavior themes, the sub-themes include consumer intention and then actual behavior. So we have a group of paper that study intention and some paper that study actual behavior, consumer perception, level of awareness, consumer acceptance, and interestingly, we found 1 sub-theme related to behavior of Muslims. Yeah? And then a paper that discusses on causes of variations or correlations or factors in the acceptance and reaction to halal among non-Muslims. For halal assurance practices, the sub-themes include roles of halal certification bodies, the models of halal certification body, and Another interesting sub-thing is related to halal certification as a resource to firms. And then in regard to management of halal business operation, we see that we have findings related to level of awareness and knowledge amongst the service providers and practices of service providers. And governance, we see that we have 4 sub-themes related to level of governance. Either there is governance or lack of governance, government policy, laws and regulation, as well as influential factors related to governance of halal industry and practices. And then finally, we have issues. So these are the things that are very important, but they are not fitted in any other themes or sub-themes. Yeah. So the first issue is Muslim human resource or labor issues in Muslim minority countries, and endorsement, the need for endorsement of internationally recognized halal certification bodies. Amongst the halal certification body operated in Muslim minority context. So here are my table, our table of findings of the 22 papers and the list of the sub-themes. So in the discussion, basically we have a number of points related to knowledge extension, where we find that some of the findings, particularly those that identified close relationships of halal consumption and the identity of Muslims. So basically these findings extend existing knowledge foundation of the behaviors of consumption of Muslims. And then the next one is the findings of information transparency being a key factor to consumption. Basically further extend the results of existing studies related to information transparency and disclosure related to halal food, and the use of the use of Islamic beliefs and values as the underpinning perspectives. When combined with qualitative methodologies in 5 articles, we see that the article, these particular 5 articles are able to generate rich data and able to capture the details of the context of the study, particularly the uniqueness of the behaviors of Muslims. And then in regard to implications for practice, we see that there are low level of awareness and commitment of service providers in serving the Muslim consumers. And also importantly, there are variations in the level of governance of the halal industry or practices in these Muslim minority contexts. So this ranges from having proper governance to basically total absence of governance. Yeah? And at least in one case that reports about Brazil, there are issues of abuse of manpower and deplorable work conditions. In any case, we still need more information to identify the root cause of these problems, whether it is caused by the lack of knowledge about Islam or the lack of competencies in implementing the halal concepts. So as a conclusion, we have derived a number of gaps. We have identified a number of gaps related to the literature on Muslim minority context, namely the lack of consideration of Islamic perspectives in halal related studies. Many of these studies basically utilize conventional theories to explain the behaviors of Muslims. Yeah? And then we see the value of applying Islamic perspectives in conducting halal related studies. And then also there is a lack of consideration of the perspective of service providers and product manufacturers, as many of these studies, about 40%, actually focuses on the individual level of analysis, focuses on the consumers, their acceptance, their intention, but there is lack of study related to the service providers and the product manufacturers, as well as the policy aspects and also the aspects of governance of the halal industry in the Muslim minority context. So we see that there is a need to address these knowledge gaps because, as I mentioned, studying the Muslim minority context is basically very important as we travel to these countries a lot, and then many of our food or supplies are actually coming from these countries. So we have to make sure that whatever their practices are indeed halal. So the issues related to halal matters in Muslim minority context are fundamental to all of us as Muslims. With that, I thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillah. Waalaikumsalam. Puan Khairul Akmal. It's a very good presentation because I suppose because basically people are studying about the halal research in the context of a bigger picture, but this research is focusing on the Muslim minority context. Okay, before we proceed to the next session, I would like to open for any Q&A session from the floor.
Boleh saya Dato' Azrin.
Boleh, silakan Prof.
Dr. Khairul Akmalia, can I see your title, please? The topics of your presentation, please.
Assalamualaikum Prof. Sorry Prof. Prof tak clear pada saya Prof. Prof cakap apa tadi?
Oh, tak clear. Okay. I would like to have your title, the title of your presentation.
Okay, sekejap ya Prof. Saya share balik ya ni Dr. Azrin?
Yes, please.
Kan.
Yes.
Alright, okay. Okay, yang ni Prof.
Alright, okay. Halal research, sorry.
Sorry. Sekejap. Nak besarkan sikit. Okay.
Definitely, first of all, congratulations for a very exciting, also interesting research. Right, and the title is Halal Research is Muslim Minority Context. And you were discussing about the Muslims in the Muslim minority countries, right?
Yes.
Why do you put the context here rather than the Muslim minority countries? Is there any difference from context and countries?
Tak ada bro. Yang ni memang kita boleh gunakan perkataan countries, tapi cuma macam di Taiwan kan, some countries acknowledge dia as a country, some countries tak acknowledge dia sebagai country. Jadi kita rasa kita gunakan perkataan konteks. Betul ke tu? Ni Dr. Saadah? What's our reason for using context? Lupa lah, sorry lah. Tapi rasanya itulah salah satu.
Assalamualaikum. Actually itulah antara sebabnya before we had this paper, we have another paper on focusing on Taiwan kan Dr. Khairul?
Yeah.
At the time we deliberate lah whether to use country, destination, context, sebab dia ada isu tu lah, isu sometimes when we present it at the side of Taiwan tu macam tak diguna, kita okay guna country, tapi kalau gitulah, jadi kita rasa macam guna konteks tu selamat.
Yeah.
So itulah saja, tak ada beza lah, actually is country lah.
Tak ada beza bro.
Country level lah.
Saya rasa banyak beza. Ya, Dr. Khairul ya. Sebab kalau you kata Muslim minority context, I'm not too sure sama ada you want to look it from the Muslim minority punya perspective. So there is a perception punya studies there over there, yeah. And then you have to have the relationship between the halal research dengan the Muslim minority tu. Tapi if you are saying that Muslim minority countries, that's different because you have to go into the selected countries lah, the Muslim minority countries. I think the unit of analysis is very different. Ya? Jangan kata sama, Dr. Khairul ya. Okay. Sebab unit of analysis of context is very different from the unit analysis of countries. So itu satu benda. Walaupun research is quite interesting, but I think you have to be more specific lah, and supaya orang tak confuse, gitu ya.
Okay, Prof. Memang unit of analysis dia countries, Prof.
So countries, nama ni sepatutnya, I can't understand that tomorrow insyaAllah there will be a session on the publication by siapa-siapa tu kan, Dr. Azrin ya. I think it's good if you can change it. If you really want to concentrate on the countries, so it's better to ini dalam Muslim minority countries, not
Okay.
context, ya.
Okay,
Right.
Prof.
That is my pikiran saya, ya. Yang kedua, can I see your assumption tadi? Just like Amna tadi, ya. Right. Okay. Kalau you tengok the first yang cuba tengok yang tadi, the second slide, second slide tadi, ya. Boleh. Alright, the introduction. Halal Muslim industry is one of the biggest global markets. The first we are talking about the halal market, yeah, and then the conclusion you were saying that they are more concentrated on the market rather than on the supplier or product, the governance and all that, okay? So the introduction is quite contrary to your findings, not to your findings, actually to your conclusion. Itu juga kena tengok, make sure lah, ya. Because now dalam introduction ni, semua you were talking about the market, and then yet the conclusion you complain that the research that have been done are more concentrated on the consumers, which relates to the market rather than to the producers or suppliers of the products and governance and all that. And so make sure your paper, the introduction, there has to be in line with what you will conclude later on, inshallah. Okay, the next slide, what they got. Minta maaf ya, Dr. Saidah dengan Dr. Khairul. Ini macam
Tak apa, Prof. Kita suka, Prof. Dapat feedback dari Prof.
Macam PhD presentation macam apa, sorry. Okay. Mana saya tengok ya, you were saying, alright, this one. The third paragraph, in the context of Muslim minority countries, it is assumed, your assumption, that the knowledge about Islam is not widespread amongst the small population of Muslims. Are you sure about this? Are you sure about this?
Secara generalnya kan, Prof, ketika fieldwork, fieldwork itulah yang kita nampak, Prof.
Berapa responden yang bincang dalam masa fieldwork itu?
Yang apa ni?
Ataupun just on your observation saja?
Waktu kita bincang, kalau di Taiwan tu kita interview about 40, Prof.
40 out of how many Muslims?
20,000 Muslims.
Is that enough? Yeah.
Itulah, Prof.
Yeah, I don't think your assumption is right lah. Yeah. Kalau apa ni, from our observation, probably participant observation, if you stay in the Muslim minority countries, I think you come to know that actually the Muslims are more intact. Dia orang lebih lagi kuat, and then the curiosity and also the application, the practice of Islam is much more as compared to the Muslim countries, the Muslim majority countries. So I don't think that this assumption is right lah. By observing 40 out of 20,000 Muslims in that particular Muslim minority countries, ya. Ini juga kalau boleh baiki baguslah, sebab data-data lain semua bagus, and I think benda-benda yang macam ni you have to be very careful, because dia agak in contrary to what is happening actually. So kalau assumption ni dah tak betul, I'm afraid that orang akan comment probably your conclusion also is not based on the true findings of what you have done. Yeah. Alright. Okay, thank you. Kecuali kalau sekiranya siapa, Nur Saidah ke Dr. Khairul, siapa lagi yang seorang lagi ini kan, co-author, kalau nak ini silakan. Kalau mungkin saya salah ya. Tak ada ya.
Tak ada, Prof.
Terima kasih banyak. That's very good suggestion lah. Kita pun akan yang mana yang macam controversial tu kita cuba elakkan kan. Macam
saya suka paper ni ya. But I want to see it lebih bagus supaya nanti insya-Allah bila hantar kepada publication tak banyak nak komen kan. Walaupun nampak saya ni macam reviewer tapi minta maaf banyak-banyak lah because I'm interested in this. So sebab tu komen jugalah, and My apologies for not opening my video ya. Tak sempat pakai kopiah jadi nampak aurat kepala. Alright, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Azin. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Alhamdulillah, thank you very much Prof and Dr. Khairul Akmaliyah and juga Dr. Khairul Nur Saadah. Alhamdulillah, actually I do agree with Prof Shukri. This topic actually is very interesting and the findings is also interesting. Okay, insyaAllah next in the Thursday, right? Kita ada sesi dengan Dr. Nurul Fadli kan untuk publication. So insyaAllah mungkin boleh lagi improvekan lah untuk publication untuk paper ni. Okay, terima kasih ya. Congratulations and thank you for Dr. Khairul Akmaliyah. Okay, for next session, I would like to call upon our fourth and last presentation of the day. Mr. Amirul Ammar Anwar. Okay, Mr. Amirul Ammar Anwar will be presenting a paper with Dr. Shariza entitled Usaha Dakwah di Era COVID-19, Ikhtiar Projek Masa untuk Pembangunan Community. So Mr. Amirul Anwar, you can start presenting now.
Okay, boleh nampak ke Doktor slide saya?
Boleh. Okay, Amma boleh share dalam bentuk presentation, yes. Okay.
Okay, terima kasih Dr. Azrin Hamiza, chairperson kita. Perisian pensyarah, wakil-wakil agensi, rakan-rakan, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sesuai dengan tema IDMAC 2021 berkenaan pengurusan institusi masjid dan kepimpinan dakwah di Asia Tenggara dalam kebiasaan baharu COVID-19, maka tajuk kajian saya dengan Dr. Shariza Muhammad Sanif adalah Usaha Dakwah di Era COVID-19, Ikhtiar Projek Masa untuk Pembangunan Komuniti. Baik, kalau kita melihat pengenalan dalam latar belakang, melihat kepada tingginya miskin bandar dan juga kos sara hidup di bandar, sebidang tanah telah diwakafkan untuk tujuan pembinaan sebuah pangsapuri di tengah bandar di Pulau Pinang. Hasil kerjasama Jauhar iaitu di peringkat persekutuan lah, Jabatan Wakaf, Zakat dan Haji, Majlis Agama Islam Pulau Pinang dan juga Wakaf Pulau Pinang. Okay, maka wujudlah sebuah pangsapuri wakaf. So pangsapuri wakaf tersebut mempunyai 77 unit, 12 tingkat. Unit-unit disewa di bawah harga pasaran sebagai alternatif dan untuk meringankan beban lah untuk menyewa di tengah bandar. So dari situ sebanyak 25 buah unit telah disewakan kepada Zakat Pulau Pinang. So Zakat Pulau Pinang kemudiannya mengikat sewa pula 25 buah unit ini dengan asnaf dengan kadar yang bersesuaian. So asnaf-asnaf tersebut menyewa dengan Zakat Pulau Pinang lah. Okay, golongan asnaf ini dikenali sebagai komuniti masa yang disantuni dan merupakan insan-insan dalam makmal sosio-akademik, iaitu masa lah, makmal sosio-akademik yang merupakan projek ISDEF USM dalam membangun asnaf yang mana penerima zakat untuk berubah menjadi lebih baik. Berubah sebelumnya seorang penerima zakat dan kemudian berubah menjadi seorang pembayar zakat. Okay, so usaha sama yang untuk membangunkan asnaf yang terpilih menerusi modul pembangunan insaniah dan sosioekonomi yang telah dirangka khas oleh ISDEF dan dipersetujui dan disokong oleh Zakat Pulau Pinang. Projek masa ini merupakan satu bentuk usaha dakwah untuk membawa atau mengubah masyarakat kepada keadaan yang sentiasa berusaha untuk mempertingkatkan keimanan dan berusaha untuk mengeluarkan diri daripada keadaan sempit kepada keadaan lapang dunia dan akhirat. Jadi projek masa menghasratkan supaya komuniti masa mempunyai azam dan tekad untuk berubah dan keluar dari ujian kemiskinan yang sedang mereka hadapi. So sebelum ini mengikut perancangan, kerja-kerja dakwah ataupun aktiviti dilakukan melalui surau yang ada di pangsapuri tersebut lah, seperti solat berjemaah, kelas fardu ain, kuliah-kuliah, kelas Al-Quran, semuanya melalui surau di pangsapuri tersebut. Namun begitu, negara dilanda pandemik COVID-19 dan pelaksanaan perintah berkurung PKP telah menghimpitlah ataupun merenggangkan komuniti massa dengan surau. Maka pelbagai cabaran wujudlah dan usaha untuk menanam nilai agama dan aktiviti yang bertujuan untuk pembangunan asnaf kelihatan seperti terganggu. Jadi penyataan masalah di dalam penulisan kajian ini, pengimarahan dakwah dan tarbiyah yang sebelumnya dipergiat melalui surau masa menerima kekangan semasa era COVID-19 dan PKP. Semasa COVID-19, keluarga asnaf berdepan cabaran dan tekanan tersendiri dalam membangun dan merubah hidup mereka. Timbulnya masalah ekonomi sosial dari segenap usia, hubungan surau dan dakwah semakin renggang dengan komuniti semasa COVID-19. So antara cabaran di era COVID-19 khususnya kepada golongan dewasa, komuniti masa ni bukan sahaja dari sudut ekonomi seperti hilang pekerjaan. Malah ada cabaran-cabaran sosial seperti isu rumah tangga dan juga jati diri. Tidak ketinggalan dalam tempoh PKP ni juga anak-anak dalam komuniti asnaf juga turut terkesan lah. Okay. So rata-rata anak-anak tidak pergi ke sekolah. Pemerhatian awal mendapati anak-anak tak sempat untuk mengikut PDPR sekolah, malah tak ada medium teknologi yang baik, begitu juga capaian internet yang lemah. Maka objektif penulisan ini pertama untuk mengenal pasti usaha-usaha dakwah projek masa semasa COVID-19, menganalisis sejauh mana penglibatan asnaf ini dalam projek masa berhubung dengan usaha-usaha dakwah ini. Jadi metodologi yang digunakan, kajian ini bersifat kualitatif, melakukan pemerhatian sebagai kaedah asas untuk pengumpulan data menerusi pemantauan program dan aktiviti yang disertai oleh komuniti masa, dan juga temu bual bersama ketua projek masa. Jadi di sini ada sedikit kesinambungan ataupun sorotan karya yang berkaitan. Pertama, kemiskinan dan agama. Contohnya kemiskinan menjatuhkan martabat orang Islam, Ahmad 1991. Kemiskinan mengancam kepercayaan manusia, Saleh 1999. Kemiskinan mengancam akidah dan kepercayaan, Qardawi. Kita boleh tengok dekat yang kedua, dakwah dan COVID-19. Keupayaan keagamaan untuk mempengaruhi moraliti dengan cara menggalakkan semangat murah hati dan galakkan agama dalam penglibatan membasmi kemiskinan, Bayes 2014. Abdul Aziz Muhammad Zain 1997 juga dakwah untuk membawa atau mengubah masyarakat kepada keadaan yang sentiasa berusaha untuk mempertingkatkan keimanan, berusaha berada sentiasa dalam cahaya dan berusaha untuk mengeluarkan diri daripada keadaan sempit kepada keadaan lapang. Dan Abdul Halim Tamuri 2021, masjid dan surau tidak dapat memainkan peranan sebagai pusat dakwah dan tarbiyah secara optimum ketika umat Islam hari ini menghadapi krisis akidah sosial, politik dan identiti yang tenat. Maka dapatan kajian ikhtiar projek masa menerusi usaha-usaha dakwah. Arahan daripada pihak berkuasa dan kerajaan seperti penutupan masjid atau surau tidak menjadi halangan. Projek masa terus menjalankan pelbagai aktiviti dari segenap bidang yang tidak terbatas kepada hanya hal ehwal agama, malah yang berbentuk kemahiran yang berkisar kepada peningkatan ekonomi dijalankan dengan rancaknya tertakluk dengan mematuhi SOP yang ditetapkan. Ikhtiar bermula dengan perancangan dan penyusunan rapi pelbagai program dan aktiviti yang telah dikelompokkan kepada beberapa kategori mengikut keperluan pembangunan insaniah setiap golongan yang terdapat dalam komuniti masa tersebut dengan mengambil kira norma baharu yang disebabkan oleh era COVID-19 ni. Maksudnya ada beberapa program yang telah dirancangkan dan dikategorikanlah mengikut kelompok golongan dewasa dan juga kelompok anak-anak. Kemudian kerangka plan tindakan dengan menawarkan beberapa program dan aktiviti secara berkala kepada komuniti masa mengikut kesesuaian peringkat umur dan keperluan golongan tersebut. Projek masa juga menawarkan kepada ahli komuniti masa yang aktif menghadiri dan menyertai program masa diberikan imbuhan top-up data internet untuk meringankan beban dan melancarkan segala aktiviti atas talian di era COVID-19. Jadi di sini disertakanlah ikhtiar masa untuk anak-anak dan remaja komuniti masa di era COVID-19. So antaranya khusus kesihatan reproduktif remaja bersama pihak KEPIMPINAN, frekuensi kegiatan khaslah. Begitu juga dengan kelas-kelas pemantapan agama dan kelas pengukuhan akademik yang dianjurkan penglibatan pihak ketiga seperti pembimbing masa, kelas Al-Quran, sesi ISDEF bersama komuniti untuk anak-anak masa 2 kali sebulan bersama ketua projek masa. So di sini dapatan di peringkat awal mendapati penglibatan dan komitmen anak-anak komuniti masa amat memberasakan. Bagi golongan dewasa pula, aktiviti tidak terhad kepada aktiviti melibatkan kelas agama lah seperti kelas mengaji online ataupun fiqh wanita, tetapi juga projek masa mengambil cakna keadaan ekonomi semasa seperti kehilangan pekerjaan, tekanan mencari rezeki dan sebagainya golongan asnaf ini dengan menjemput pihak ketiga seperti MARA untuk menyediakan program celik perniagaan sebagai contoh. Begitu juga pejabat pertanian daerah Barat Daya dengan aktiviti pertanian bandar di projek masa. So dapatan awal juga mendapati golongan dewasa di komuniti masa tersebut dahagakan ilmu dan mengikuti kelas program yang istiqamah diusahakan oleh projek masa. So kesimpulannya di sini, disebabkan era COVID-19 dan PKP yang dilaksanakan, usaha dakwah projek masa dalam bentuk fizikal tidak sahaja terkesan untuk menjalankan aktiviti, malah turut merasa bertanggungjawab seterusnya membantu komuniti masa yang terkesan di wabak tersebut dari segenap aspek, baik agama maupun dunia seperti ekonomi, sosial, kewangan, rumah tangga dan pendidikan. Sekurang-kurangnya projek masa telah berjaya mengisi masa dan membantu anak-anak komuniti masa dengan aktiviti berfaedah di samping menangani isu-isu sosial di kalangan komuniti masa di era COVID-19. Projek masa juga tidak membiarkan SOP BAHARU dengan keadaan semasa yang merisaukan dapat memberi kesan negatif kepada komuniti masa, tetapi terus berikhtiar mencari cara dan peluang untuk menyediakan persekitaran yang boleh memberi kesan kepada peningkatan prestasi. Jadi penemuan awal dalam projek masa yang boleh dijalankan ini boleh dijadikan sebagai kerangka asas dalam pembinaan modul yang sesuai oleh mana-mana institusi maupun agensi yang berminat untuk membangunkan komuniti rentan yang lain demi mencapai pembangunan komuniti Islam yang lebih baik. Sekian sahaja pembentangan ini. Terima kasih.
Alhamdulillah, terima kasih Encik Ahmad. Terima kasih. Saya ingin membuka sebarang persoalan ataupun if all the participant have any question to ask Mr. Ahmad, you can unmute your microphone and freely to ask now, or you can type in the chat area your questions.
Untuk Azrin boleh tanya sikit.
Silakan Prof.
Ya, mari Ahmad. Masa tu apa dia apa?
Itulah.
Masa tu apa? Masa tu time tu apa?
Ada diterangkan sikitlah tadi dalam slide projek makmal sosio-akademik. Prof.
Ya ke makmal sosio-akademik. Tak tak lengkap tu kok projek tu nama tu kan. Bukan Masa at Sungai Nibung.
Itu nama penuh Prof, Masa at Sungai Nibung. Tapi dalam kajian saya ni saya letak masa sahaja.
So kalau tak masa saja maknanya Ahmad tak kaji pasal Masa at Sungai Nibung, tapi semua konten tadi berkaitan dengan Masa at Sungai Nibung kan. Bolehkah kita buat macam tu? Kaji lain, kaji satu benda, kaji tentang Ahmad, tapi namanya AM saja. Kaji pasal AM saja, bukan Amar. Boleh ke?
Mungkin Dr. Syariza dia tak ada dalam ni.
Minta SOS.
Ambulans, pada peringkat awal tu saya penulisan ni memang letak nama penuh Masa at Sungai Nibung, tapi ada sebab-sebab tertentu lah untuk silentkan Sungai Nibung tu lah. Sebab keselamatan macam tu, tak silap saya. Mungkin Dr. Syariza boleh further elaborate.
Saya bimbang, takut saya fahamlah apa bendanya nak sembunyikan apa semua tu kan. Tapi buat secara lebih profesional lah. Misalnya katakan projek asnaf bandar ke, pembangunan asnaf bandar ke apa semua kan. Tapi kalau spesifik, kaji pasal Masa at Sungai Nibung, tapi tahu setengah saja dia punya nama. Orang confuse, kalau orang cari pun tak jumpa. See? Saya rasa tajuk tu kena ubah lah.
Baik.
Mungkin Dr. Syariza mungkin apalah tu tentang benda ni kan. Jadi tak boleh kita selindungkan suatu bahagian. Katalah nak kaji tentang Malaysia, tapi nak kita sebut dalam research kita kajian tentang MAL saja. Tak boleh lah kan. Yang pertama. Yang kedua, Ahmad selalu duk sebut kata projek ni projek dakwah. Betul projek dakwah ni?
Dia adalah projek pembangunan komuniti lah. Ada usaha-usaha dakwah lah. Program-program yang dijalankan tu sebagai usaha dakwah yang dilakukan.
So yang pentingnya yang tunjangnya pembangunan komuniti kan?
Ya betul Pak.
Kalau yang lebih tepat lagi, pembangunan komuniti miskin bandar kan?
Ya betul Pak.
So dakwah ni mengikut mana?
Melalui ikhtiar lah ataupun usaha-usaha yang dilakukan semasa COVID-19.
Ya okey, dakwah nak buat apa kat mereka ni? Nak bangun ekonomi mereka ke, sosial mereka ke, politik mereka ke, agama mereka ke? Kalau dakwah, takut ada kena-mena dengan agama saja kan?
Ya betul Prof. Sebab tu semasa kalau mengikut jadual asal tu disebabkan COVID-19 ni, hubungan antara asnaf dengan surau ni menjadi sedikit renggang lah, sebab banyak aktiviti dakwah ataupun pengimarahan surau seperti kelas-kelas agama, kelas Al-Quran, input nilai agama ni lah jadi terganggu sedikit. So apa ikhtiar projek masa ni dalam nak melancarkan ataupun meneruskan usaha dakwah tersebut.
Jadi dakwah ni hanya salah satu aspek projek itu kan. Dakwah ni salah satu aspek projek itu kan. Ada dakwah lain, tapi kalau kita katakan masa ini adalah merupakan satu projek dakwah, tak boleh lah kan. Sebab dakwah adalah salah satu aspek. Kalau kita kata masa at Sungai Nibung ini adalah merupakan merupakan usaha pembangunan komuniti miskin bandar di Sungai Nibung itu kan. Dan untuk ini dilakukan pembangunan itu secara integratif, secara bersepadu yang melibatkan keseluruh aspek kehidupan manusia. Salah satunya ialah dakwah. Dan dakwah ini biasanya tertumpu aktivitinya di surau yang disebutkan tadi kan. Tapi kalau kena COVID, maka aktiviti ini agak terhad, tapi ada cara untuk mengatasi masalah ini. Itu baru tepat. Jadi kalau nak kata masyarakat Sungai Nipah ni aktiviti dakwah, tak. Bukan gitu kan.
Betul.
Dia salah satu. Dan malahnya dakwah itu ya benar merupakan tunjang. So kalau boleh nanti Ahmad bila nak publish paper ni, kena tengok balik proposal asal. Ahmad dah pernah tengok proposal asal projek ni tak?
Ya, dah benar, Prof.
So tengok betul-betul, faham betul-betul, maka apa ni, ambil benda tu lah. Jangan takut jadi misleading nanti ya. Jadi misleading, orang confused nanti ya.
Baik.
Terima kasih Ahmad. Terima kasih.
Ya, terima kasih Prof. Terima kasih banyak-banyak.
Ustaz Azrin Hamiza, sayalah pula jadi pengerusi. Datuk Azrin pergi mana?
Ya, saya ada Prof. Tadi saya ter-disconnect sekejap, seketika. Saya pun terkejut.
Datuk Azrin tu putus balik ke ya?
Saya ada Prof kat sini.
Tapi tak nampak gambar Datuk Azrin.
Saya cuba on video tapi tak boleh.
Tak boleh bercakap, takut ada orang lain.
Okey. Okey, baik Prof. Tiba-tiba tadi saya terkeluar. Okey. Saudara Amar mungkin boleh ambil take note on daripada nasihat dan juga cadangan Prof lah kan, mungkin boleh bincangkan untuk perbaiki. Tadi saya pun ada ingin bertanyakan the first question untuk masa tu kan, sebab tak di-explain dengan lebih awal walaupun saya dah tahu, tetapi itulah mungkin boleh diperkemaskan lagi lah untuk publication untuk di hari yang ketiga nanti insya-Allah ya Ahmad. Okey, sebelum saya nak tamatkan sesi ini, saya nak buka lagi satu soalan daripada para peserta yang lain. Jika ada untuk pembentang-pembentang yang telah membentangkan kertas kerja pada hari ini. Okey. Tiada sebarang komen di bahagian chat dan juga saya kirakan tiada sebarang persoalan lah daripada setiap peserta yang terlibat pada hari ini. Alhamdulillah, terima kasih kepada semua kerana peserta. Prof Syukri, Dr. saya nampak Dr. Fazila Azmi dekat sini, Dr. Azin Ibrahim dan juga ke semua barisan-barisan peserta daripada industri dan juga yang turut serta dalam sesi pada kali ini. Dan saya nak ucapkan tahniah kepada semua pembentang, Puan Rizda Marina, Pak Redi, Setiawan, Dr. Karul Akmaliah dan tim dan juga Encik Amirul Amar lah. Tahniah di atas pembentangan dan insya-Allah sedikit sebanyak kita telah dapat pengetahuan daripada apa yang telah dibentangkan dalam sesi Islamic Development Management untuk IDMAC sesi 2A pada hari ini. Sehubungan dengan itu, sebelum kita akhiri majlis kita pada petang ini, marilah sama-sama saya ingin memperingatkan lagi sekali lagi untuk for tomorrow session, the second day of IDMAC, there will be a concurrent session 3 that will start at 9 a.m. in the morning. There will be 3 sessions, session 3A, 3B and 3C. You can refer to the program books of IDMAC on the daily schedule to see which session you are interested to go in and attend. And then at 10 a.m. we'll be having the keynote address, the second keynote address by Associate Professor Dr. Fazila Azmi Ahmad. And then after that we'll be having a closing ceremony by our director, staff director, Associate Professor Dr. Syahid Akram Hassan, and yang berusaha Dr. Muhammad Faiz bin Na'man, the member of Board of Trustee YADIM. InsyaAllah, without much further ado, we will close the session today by reciting Tasbih Kafarat dan Surah Al-As. Alhamdulillah, and thank you everyone for still staying in the session even though we have to finish a little bit late today. Okay, Alhamdulillah, thank you everyone for joining, and inshallah we will see again tomorrow. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Excuse me, Dr. Azrin.
Yes, who's speaking?
I am Muhammad Awal.
Awal, yes, Awal.
Sorry to disturb you, Doctor. I message in chat room.
Oh,
I request
okay.
Dr. Khairul Akmalia.
Okay, you want the presentation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, inshallah, I will ask maybe we can ask Dr. Kamalia to send it to you, Khairul Akmalia, right? Or otherwise you can ask from the secretariat her email address, so that or maybe you can refer towards the end of the session in the program book, and they have an email of the participant, right? So maybe we can refer from there and email from the Dr. Kamarul Akmalia. Yeah, Brother Awal? Okay. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.